Well, hello, my YouTube audience, my friends. Thank you for coming to my study today as we venture into another YouTube Live. This is PJ, and I thought I'd switch things around a little bit here. Um, Wanted to do this cast because of what's been going on in our nation um, with the killings, the mayhem, the total disregard for truth. And I was thinking about all those things. And I was asking myself, well, John, how are you going to address these things happening in the future? Has the God that you were told to believe in years ago given up and turned his back on humanity? Um, is he off somewhere in the distance? I recall years ago when I was a pastor, there was an Old Testament scripture. I think, let's see who it was. It was when the prophet of God came against the prophets of Baal, and um, the prophet of God began to mock Jezebel's prophets and told them, well, call louder. Maybe your God is taking a nap or on vacation somewhere. Maybe he doesn't hear you. And it kind of brought me into the idea of, well, has God taken a vacation? Does he know what's going on in our nation, in the lives of our people, the death, the mayhems, the killings, uh, the strange weather patterns, all those things? Where is God? Well, I believe that God is still alive. And listen to this. I got to share this with you because I had a conversation yesterday with a guy who wouldn't tell me his age, and that was a warning signal that since he wouldn't tell me his age, that there's obviously something that he's hiding. But I think I guessed it because I could tell by his language and by the by what's influencing our young people today. Our young people are being infiltrated by other people that have given up on the idea as to whether or not there is a God. Young people are very easily taught and trained to get into the esoteric arts and different religions. I want to share with you some things on this hour webcast, and I plan to be here a while. I'm going to do an awful lot of talking, and I hope that you can settle in with me. I want to share certain things with you. I've taught you before that many times, many years when I was teaching in the junior college system, that I taught world religions. And I haven't heard of, well, maybe if I really think about it, you can find a tribe that didn't have God in their language, but I believe that there is one God that has to do with all of us as the creation of God, as human beings, Homo sapiens. I believe there's one God for all of us. Oh, you see that picture on the wall behind me? That picture belonged to my pastor, to my mentor, if you will, to the man that uh, showed me with intelligence all that I knew about God until I took it upon myself to get in college and to study and to discover for myself about God. I was talking with a guy, a black man yesterday. I won't give you his name, it's not important. I believe he's about in his 50s, early 50s. He wouldn't give me his age. That made him suspect, and I told him that. I said, you see, women are the only kind of species that don't like to give their age because they like to think, uh, well, I want to say this without getting females mad at me, but women pride themselves in their looks. And this man said to me, as good as he looks, he doesn't have to give his age. You can see for yourself. And I told him, well, I can agree with that because I'm 79 and I know I look damn well. And so I agree with that, but I still don't know why you won't give me your age. We're having an intellectual conversation about whether there's a God. Now, you know me, I love those kind of conversations. I love for it when somebody tries to come against me in some kind of way and uh, share with me the idea that there ain't no God and that I'm a fool for believing that. And he started off the conversation with that. He was under the, I guess, the opinion, and I hope that he's able to watch my webcast and he can respond back to me. I'd love for him to do it. And I love it when younger men try to challenge the old bulldog. You're not going to win when you get into an intellectual to a logician's argument with me. I want to share something else with you. And I want to share why I said that. Oh, here it is. Here it is. I like this setup much better. Hey, here's a book that I use. This was my logic text. This was my logic text. And I want to say, hey to Tony. That's right. Yeah, they will lose, Tony, in an argument with me. But this guy tried to get into an argument with me, telling me that I shouldn't tell people about God because God is not real. It's a figment of my imagination, and that I use fear to get people to do what they're doing. And I try to tell this guy, of all the years that I was behind the pulpit, I never used hell to try to get anybody afraid. I only taught love. But this was my logic book, uh, An Introduction to Informal Fallacies. The man was coming out with tons of informal fallacies, and my book is falling apart, but I got a sheet here, and I just want to run this down to you. Okay, the begging the question in three forms. That's when you offer a premise, a simple restatement of a desired conclusion. That's what he kept doing to me. And I kept saying to myself as I listened to this man, what is he trying to do? He's trying to get me to deny the God that kept my life since I was born. The God that, wait a minute, wait. He's trying to, this, the God, this was my family Bible. Okay, I still got it. This, look at this. My family read this Bible. My mom and dad and their parents, and they passed it on to me. You know, it's one of those old Bibles that got those old pictures. Remember? Hey, this is old school stuff. This isn't these new Rick Warren things. These aren't these new kind of highfalutin religions. But man, they got so much esotericism going on now. And what they try to do with these youngsters is okay, this is a picture of Elijah and his servant on Mount Carmel. That's, yeah. See, and this is a great story if you want to read this when you read it in the Old Testament. There are some great stories in this ancient book, but I want to share something with you. If you're trying to get me to deny this book, you've got to be crazy because I will never deny this book, nor the God that authored this book, nor the Spirit of Christ that dwells through this book and dwells in me. And another thing that this gentleman said to me that let me know that he was rather crackpotish is that he said to me that he views himself as equal with God. I had to. Hey, I was cool. I was cool. You guys would have been very proud of me because I didn't go off on him like I used to do on the radio. I didn't do that. I'm retired. I don't have to do it. There are so many people that will discover as they continue to live that there is a God. Let's see. It says right here that at work, I have that here when I get off. Oh, okay. Thank you, man. You stay on that job and watch this once you get home. Because this brother's at work and he can't stay on, but he'll watch me later. And I've been knowing this man for years and years. He never officially joined my church, yet he studied in the classroom. He studied with me. He knows my life. He was there when my late wife brought breakfast to the guys in there. Good afternoon, Mark. Good to have you with us, Mark. I thought that I called this thing because my heart and mind was totally enamored by that shooting. And I watched a friend of mine, Seiko Woods, on his podcast, and I think I told you about Seiko in the last cast that I did, and I really want you to tune in to Seiko Woods' podcast tonight around 7 o'clock Texas time, because he's going to have a guy on his YouTube podcast saying that churches should have armed guards in there and ready to shoot to kill when crazy people come in there. And that's what prompted me to do this cast, because I want to share this idea. First of all, let me say this. I agree. If you have a church of people meeting, you should have an armed individual there to protect the body of Christ. Okay. Let me share with you why. Because these preachers are preaching behind the pulpit about these husbands committing adultery on their wives, turning these wives against their husbands, making these husbands mad at all get out. And so what happens? The husband ends up going to the church, blowing the preacher's head off, a couple of the members and the deacons that get in the way. I say, watch the message that you have coming from behind that pulpit. That's what I say. Because I never did what JMJ did, call somebody out in his church, blaspheme him right in front of the whole congregation, tells the congregation they shouldn't have anything to do with him and stuff like that. That's ridiculous. You don't do things like that. But uh uh I want you to listen to what I'm saying. All right. If you're gonna have, and please back to this guy, because I was looking at my logic book here and I was thinking about what he did. He gave circular arguments to try to get me to not believe in God anymore. A circular argument is more complex than, but eventually justifying the conclusion with itself. In other words, it sounds like this: A because of B, where B is dependent upon A. That's a circular argument, man. Don't talk to me that way. Just because you say you know something is not true about God in your life does not mean that you have covered it. Let me give you what I'm talking about. I believe that that person that shot up that school yesterday was full of the worst kinds of spiritual forms. Some people call them devils, some demons. I mean, to shoot children, it's and older adults trying to help your children, you have to be full of the worst kind of spirit to kill another human being, to take their life away. You must be. I have never, as as much as I know, have never caused a person to leave their life. I've never done that, and I never will do that if I can help it. I am protecting myself. I am in this place, and I have my protection locked up. Okay, I'll show you. Locked up right there, and where it's supposed to be, and registered to me, mine. I am leveling my head when to use it, and I agree. Like my friend Seiko, uh, I would refuse to live in a state, in a country where I cannot defend my life with armed force. So I'm not one of these people running around here talking about throw out all the guns. Forget you. No, no. Make sure that you got a brain and listen to me. You know how to use the firearm. You know when to use the firearm, and you have wisdom, and you love individuals and know that it's a dangerous piece of equipment, just like that car you driving. These youngsters get in the car and just step on the gas and just take off. And you got tons in some of these trucks, tons of vehicles going down the street. Well, let me read what Mark is saying right here. Mark says, are there any churches that have armed guards? Yes, many churches do. Many churches, and they're off-duty policemen that attend that church. They are the best security guards you're going to have, because if somebody comes on the property of a church trying to wreak mayhem on the congregation, I am in total agreement. You need to have some armed people on the property trained to shoot and to aim and to take care of any problem that comes your way. That's just my personal belief. I'm not advocating nitwits, fools. Uncle Jed just got a shotgun out of the back and take it to Third Baptist Church, and he's becoming security without being properly trained in the use of any kind of weaponry against human beings. I'm not talking about that. That's savagery and foolishness. But I'm talking about a trained individual and how to protect people's lives. Listen, let me say this. The most precious thing that we have, and I was thinking about it because I was telling a friend of mine, I just feel like sometimes I want to leave the planet. I'm so tired of it. I saw a TikTok clip yesterday. There was a sister on there, and she was just fed up. She said she didn't want to wake up the next morning and see what was going on. Well, I feel that way a lot of times. I feel that way, but I'm sensible. I'm reasonable. I know that I have an obligation, albeit from my study here in my home. I have an obligation to help other people in the environment that I live in, because other people are going through strenuous times. Now, I don't attend church anymore. I don't need to. And I've been preaching this message for years. I don't think anybody needs to attend church. I don't think anybody needs to attend. Okay? Because, Mark, that's a good statement about Malcolm. I'd love to get to that in a minute. I don't attend church anymore because there is no reason for me to open up this book and to show you what God is saying, because in this country, you can pick up a book like this absolutely free. You can go in most public places and they got them laying around, and you can read it. Now, unlike this man that called me and some young people I know, they think this book was used to control you. Yes, it's used to control your depraved nature, jive time heathen. Of course, it's used for control. I'd use it to control too. I wouldn't try to threaten people with hell, though. That's an easy thing to see beyond. Well, let's see if I can answer this question. All right, Mark says it's what Malcolm X was trying to tell us. He's not talking about looking for trouble, but protecting ourselves, our family, and our property if the U.S. government is unable or unwilling. Exactly. Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Now, there's one thing I'm going to say, and let's stop comparing the Texas police response to do things to the one in Tennessee, because I know everybody's going to be talking about that. See, they responded right. Hey, look, let me tell you something. A lot of people got a badge and a gun for all the wrong reasons. Some of them got a badge and a gun to make a power move on people because they're uh, sadomasochists. Some of them have the power of a badge and a gun because they've never had authority in their life and anything else. So it makes them feel like they're King Kong. I'm not talking about that kind of individual. I'm talking about the kind of individual that knows the value of himself or herself having that weapon. Some would ask me, well, do you own a private? Yes, I do, registered in my name. Yeah. Have you ever had to use it? Only at the range when I keep it, yeah. No, I've never shot anybody or at anybody, but I have been the kind of person that told you, now don't get crazy in my house. Don't get crazy on me in my house because my house, now, all right, don't you try to tell me there is no God, right? There is no God. I am looking at a scene. I'm going to turn around and show it to you. I'm going to show it to you. Do you see that scene? That is outside of the window of the Lucy Coleman studio in my house today. You see that? You see those cumulus clouds? You see all that? You see that? Now we're coming right back to me. I just wanted to let you know I am in America. I am in a home. I am in my living quarters. This is where I live. This is freedom to me. This is mine. I may not have paid for all of it. I may owe the gas bill, the electric bill, but it's mine. I'm fully retired. I earned it. Now, you let somebody come in on me and try to jeopardize what is mine. You know what I'm going to do? Yes, I am. I don't want to live in a state or a municipality where you can't protect what's yours. Because if you cannot protect what's yours, there will be more of this mayhem from these insane people that are shooting up now are Christian schools, just walking in with 3 and 4 weapons, killing people verbatim because their life didn't go the way they were supposed to go. Because uh, uh, they laughed at me when I went to school here. So what? Maybe they had something to laugh at. They laughed at me a lot when I was in grade school. A heck of a lot they laughed at me. I was a skinny. You've seen pictures of me on my Facebook when I was 11 and 12 years old. I was a funny looking, lame looking kid. I may look the same way as an adult. I don't know. But people going to always laugh at you. That doesn't give you a right after you 10 years out of high school to go back to a grade school that you attended and shoot the place up. What I did like about it, because they got the video out there where the police went in there and took care of that transgendered person. And I'm not trying to say go around shooting transgendered, but that's what the person was this and then that. I have never been, I'm not that. I'm this. I'm John Coleman, a man. Now, if you are John Coleman, a man, and you don't want to be a man, and you want to change yourself into a woman, this is America. You will live to see the day tomorrow. You will live to go shopping. You will live to buy a pair of shoes. Because you live in America, the home of the brave and the land of the free. You can tell them you a tadpole if you want to, or a giraffe. You don't have to be LGBT. You could be A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, and Y, and Z. You can be all that in this country, and ain't nobody gonna do a dang thing to you because you have freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of anything and everything you want to do. But get this right. When you start treading on my parade and I tell you to stop it, you need to stop it or you're going to be taken on another level. Now, that's what freedom in this country that I was raised in. And please don't try to tell me as a black man I'm not free yet. No, you're not free. Your mind is locked up, tied up through somebody got you thoroughly confused about what's going on. I am not thoroughly confused. My brother was speaking about Malcolm X. He was not thoroughly confused. Now, there was a lot of fear going on in our community when Malcolm was out because he was telling a black man to stand up to that white man. And that black man knew that he could lose his job. My goodness, and if he loses his job, his babies don't eat. So a lot of us played that game. We hid out. It was a time when you could not say anything, when you would not say anything. But now you can be anything you want to be. Anything you want to be. I'm going to tell you what I want to be. I want to be the man that trusted in the word of God. When I taught my students in college world religions, I taught them that they are not the only ones that have an idea about God. Now, usually the school had a text, and I'm just going to read the chapters that was in the section. Okay, religious tribes and city states. That was section number 1. Okay, the religions of the Americas and the religions of Africa. It started there. Then in section 2, religions arising in India. There's where you had Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism. Oh, yeah, we got religion. Then you had religions of China and Japan. And then in section 4, you had the religions that influenced East and West. That's the ancient religions of Iraq and Iran. And then you had, check this out, the religions of the family of Abraham. Now look at all these that came out of the family of Abraham: Judaism, Christianity, Islam, new forms of religion, globalization, and world religions. So you see, when you teach that, and the book is thick, and it talks about, man, wait a minute, let me share this with you. And this man is trying to tell me, a professor of philosophy that taught world religions, that there is no God, and it was, it's just a figment of my imagination. I told him I didn't believe in no burning hell for an eternity. Only a nitwit would believe that. I don't see why God would put my soul in a burning hell and burn it for eternity. And I had never done anything in my life to warrant such a horrible thing. And then I could not justify a loving God ever doing that to me. And so, even though I was a Protestant pastor in a Baptist church, and I used to use terms like this, watch out, you may go to hell. And I had a smile on my face, and the congregants would laugh, and I'd laugh back at them and keep on moving. Because I never try to scare somebody into heaven and scare them out of hell. I didn't do that. But look at this. This is what we did. In the introduction of this book, Common Features of Most Religions, you have to tell them what is sacred. There's practically nothing is sacred in Christianity today. Okay? There's a sacred space. See that shooter that went in there? She went into a sacred space and shot it up. So they needed to be taken out immediately. I don't care whose sacred space it is. If it's an Indian, if it's a Buddhist or whatever, you go into a sacred space and start messing with lives, your life is just put on the spot. Then there's sacred stories because every religion has stories to tell. People are going to tell these stories, and these stories acquiesce to the people that they're talking to. If it's not your story, get the Hades out of that place and find the religion you want. Every religion has sacred writings. Therefore, in Christianity, it's Greek, Aramaic, or Greek, Aramaic, and Hebrew, and other languages. And some of these writings and sayings were found to be true in other religions far more than Christianity and Judaism had it. We also teach, when you teach about religions, about rituals, dance, and religious drama. You see a lot of that in church today. Some people don't like certain religious drama. Somebody showed me recently a picture of President Biden in a black church, and the black choir was singing, and Biden was looking kind of out of place because they don't sing like that in the cold Methodist church background that he comes from. So every church or every religion has a historical development. This man was trying to tell me yesterday that I should not believe in God because it is a myth. It is a myth. And I taught world religions. I asked the man how old was he? He wouldn't tell me. I said, what kind of a dude that got a brain is afraid to tell another dude how old he is? I held him suspect right then. And I told him, I said, you may be talking to a retired Baptist minister. I have wait a minute. Some of you have never seen it. I'm going to show it to you right now because I'm not playing. I'm glad I'm doing this on my laptop. I want to show you my credentials, and I want you to take a real good look. You see where I got them? I got them up on the top. Those are the 3 earned collegiate degrees that I've earned. Okay. Here's the other commendations from the city. That's a picture of me when I was on the radio. The one under it, I'm a chaplain. I'm standing right on the end next to the blonde lady for the LAPD, and there's all my commemorations and everything. Now I showed you that. Because I don't want you to think I'm some talking head over here that doesn't know what the Hades he's talking about. I know what I'm talking about. All right, yeah, that's my ceiling right there. That's cool. I know what I'm talking about. And for somebody to come to me and try to tell me I'm a learned man, and I was going to ask the man, where did he go to school? Guess what he wanted to spew out? His esoteric readings. That's not school. Wait a minute. Oh, I'm tired of it. I'll show it to you. I just reached and got it. I've shown you this book before. This is a book of mythology. You know what mythology means? That certain religions, certain so-called truths that you are studying are merely myths. They're not real. They're not real. You can read from wait a minute. Wait a minute. You get me going now. You get me going. I just thought about it. Do I have any esoteric texts? Yes, I do. I'm going to scoot over here. I'm kind of glad I did this way because I can go to my library and get a book and bring that sucker back and show it to you and prove my point. I have some esoteric texts here. I have some old ones. This is a pretty old one right here. I guess I'll show you this. This thing is See, when a man tried to tell me that he has old books, you see how old this book is? Look at this book. Look at the cover of this book. Now, I'm going to turn this thing around. Those of you that are watching this live know I'm not making this up. This pulled right from my library in my office. Okay? Oh, this book is heavy too. Let's see. It's called Aids to the Study of the Holy Bible. And it says valuable chronological, geological, and miscellaneous tables with historical and other exemplary matter designed to facilitate the study and promote the better understanding of the Holy Scriptures. And this man talking to me yesterday, trying to get me to throw all of this out and become an esoteric floating comet in the ionosphere like him. And it says genuineness, authenticity, inspiration, and preservation and value of the Word of God. And when I look at this, this is kind of like, whoo, this is good reading. I want to share something with you. I just want to start reading a little bit of it. And I have this handy little light thing here. I am not going to go into the caverns of ignorance and lay my brain down. It says, the sacred volume, usually called the Bible, or the book of the way of omniscience, consists of two parts, the Old Testament and the New Testament. It maintains a great variety of different compositions. Oh, yes, it does. Making 66 smaller volumes. It talks about moral and religious precepts written by different persons, widely separated from each other of their place and times, meaning that when you read from this book, you have to know, well, what you're reading, when you're reading it, who wrote it, what was the consequence of writing it. You know, that has to do with hermeneutics, canonicity, and all those other things. And this man asking me to just throw that out because, and then he told me that he sees himself as God. It was totally ridiculous. Totally ridiculous. Now, let me see. All right. I'm just trying to see who's still with me here and what's going on. All right. Okay, is somebody trying to come into the chat. I can appreciate that. I can appreciate it. Let me follow along. So, I was thinking this morning because I got up and I said, no wonder these young people are so easily influenced by these new religions coming out. I don't know what they expected out of Christianity. Christianity is not uh, and I was an apologist years ago when I was on the radio. I was an apologist, and I had a I had a purpose, and that purpose as an apologist was to correct those that were misrepresenting true biblical first century Christianity. That's what I did. I was a guy that said, that's a lie, that's not true. I'm not going to try to get into what's true and what's false on this network because they have rules here. Certain things you can't say. So they're already controlling some of my language. There's a lot of things that I can say to you that I'd love to say to you, but I'm not uh, because they have rules. But I'm saying this, the rules that have led me through 79 years of my life and the rules that pertain to spirituality, even if Christianity was the colonizer's enslavement of the mind, my mind has never been enslaved. I do not believe that the mind of my ancestors were enslaved. If one had a whip and a gun, of course, if I wanted to outlive the turmoil or the torture, uh, I knew what was there. But all in all, freedom is in the mind of the person that says they are. When I got up this morning, I asked myself, what kind of a day am I going to have? What am I going to do with all of these hours that I'm confronted with? No longer going to work? I had a couple of pieces of toast and a couple of cups of coffee. Right now, it's 1:45 in the afternoon. I guess it's time for lunch, right? I'm not hungry. Drinking a little orange juice. I have fresh water in here. I have my meds all around me. I'm enjoying a beautiful scene looking out of my window of the Lucy Coleman studio. I named this space after my late wife, who passed away in this very room in 2001. Okay? That's why I call it the Lucy Coleman Studio. In dedication to her memory, to her love. And she saw me, she went with me, as I purchased these books. And most of these books I have read. This man trying to tell me to dump everything that I've learned about God and embrace the idea that I am God. Uh, My God. You know what? I got a good book when someone is that, if you can find the whole set. I only kept one, and this one is by James Montgomery Boyce, and it's his commentary on Romans. Now, a good friend of mine, Harley Howard, has written his commentary on Romans. I'd love to read Harley's commentary. I don't have it, but James Montgomery Boyce really does justice in the preface of the book. And I want to read the preface to you, just a few words from the preface, and so that you can know the value of this. It is a formidable task to begin a study of Paul's great letter to the Romans, and exciting too. I felt those emotions, James Montgomery Boyce writes, as he began to study nearly 4 years ago, and he still feels it. So do I whenever I read the book of Romans. I went verse by verse through this, and I had the whole commentary. I had it. I've given the other volumes of these commentaries to friends of mine, to young men that wanted to study theology. And I said, well, I've surely preached from the series, and I have my main set of books, so you can take this. And the only reason that I would go to a commentary like this now would be to look up the meaning of a text if I'm reading my Bible. And let me say this at this time, everyone that calls himself a believer is not a believer. You're not a believer because you go to church. You're not a believer because you have a Bible. You're a believer because you believe it. You believe it. I didn't say that you believe something that you can't understand. Jonah in the belly of a whale. I can understand that. I don't believe it was a whale. And it wasn't because Jesus said in the New Testament, as Jonah was in the great fish. What is a great fish? I don't know. That's beyond me. But I believe that in some kind of way, Jonah ended up at the place that he was trying to get away from, and he found himself doing what I'm doing. I'm retired, right? What do you think I'm doing right now? I am preaching to you. That's right. You're listening to a pastor give his heart over these airways. Why? Because I live in the United States of America, a free country. I can do this. America is a terrible country when I can't do this. As long as I can do this, America is the land of the free and the home of the brave. You may try to get reparations. Give me some if you get some. I'll take it. I need a few extra dollars to keep me floating. I'd like to paint the room a different color sometime. I like to put another set of lights. You see them lights? Yeah, those are party lights. I like to set that up in my study. I'm an American. I live in America. I love this country. I can read from James Montgomery Boyce's Introduction to Romans and love it in freedom. That man tried to pull me from that. And I said, man, how old are you? Well, I don't go by my age. You better, you're going to die one day. And then, talking to another young man and trying to get him to think that he's God. Yeah, I tell you, you're going to find out how much. Hey, I was in the hospital and they cut on me, right? I'm going to tell you, I have been on that operating bench so many times, my listening audience. Pastor John's just rambling on. I'm enjoying my time with you. Whoop-de-doo to you too. But when your ass is laying on that table, all right, and they're going to cut into your heart or go up into your groins and do this, because they've done that. They've gone up into my groins and gone up into the arteries and put a left artery pump in there and all that kind of stuff. I'm a miracle man sitting here, all because of the grace of God. Now, you think I'm going to thank God that I live in this country? In this United States of America? Yes, I am. With all that's going on in her, this is the greatest country in the world. Why you think them people, man, I heard on the news, you got these people from South America dying in a Mexican holding tank, starting a fire, trying to come here to America, just so their family can work in McDonald's, Burger King, anything like that, to eat, to find a place to go to a park without having somebody shoot at them, where their daughters and sons will not be molested by people, where they can live a life of freedom within the context of life. This is America. This is my country that I live in. And this man is trying to get me to forbade God? What? You know what? I'm going to tell you something. Once you erase the idea of God from your life, you don't have anything left but a shell of what a human being is. Because you cannot rightly define yourself without the idea of God. Now, I'm going to prove it. I got my book here, and I got about 10 more minutes, and I can do it. And I'm reading from Romans chapter 4, and I want to start reading at verse 13. Matter of fact, let me go to it in James Montgomery Boyce's book. That's Romans chapter 4, verse 13. I'm going to see how close I was on. Let's see, just give me a minute. Romans 4:13. Do I have it here? I want to show you something. 3:21. Here we go. Okay, wait a minute. 3:22. Wait a minute. I'm getting there. You got to give me a minute. This is 3:25. I hope it goes to. Yeah, here we go. This is what I want. 12 and 13. Salvation apart from the law. Now, this is Paul using Abraham, Father Abraham, as the ancient Jew, as my example. And Boyce writes and says, it is not through law that Abraham and his offspring received the promise that he would be the heir of the world, but through the righteousness that comes by faith. See, Abraham wasn't justified because he was of the blood and the seed of God and stuff like that. When a man tells me that he's God, no, man, you don't understand. You better read this Bible right. Okay, now listen to this. Listen to this and pay attention. For if those who live by law are heirs, faith has no value and the promise is worthless. See, you have to have faith in the Bible. It's not through works, it's not through law. That's why I told people, I said, wait a minute. If you think that you have sinned, maybe you didn't sin. Maybe you just did something that was natural in your flesh. And if you did it, and if you did it against a person, apologize to that person. But don't condemn yourself and go and cut your throat or something like that. It's not that serious. It really isn't. See, you have to understand the context. A lot of Christian religion was fanaticism. When these people started pastoring these churches and talking to these people, they were fanatics. Got these people jumping all around, going crazy. And it has to do with the religion that they came out of. They came out of a religion of fanaticism. And so they're responding that way. I had to tell that guy I was talking to yesterday, I've never been a fanatic. I'm not a fanatic now. I've never made statements that didn't make any sense to a logician. Why would I make that? You know what? I used to tell people this. They said, Pastor John. I said, what? Can I join your church? I used to say, I don't have one. What? I said, I don't have a church. What do you mean? Can you join my church? What do you mean by that? Can I join this organization? Then I'd ask them, why would you want to do that? And they said, what do you mean? Why would I want? Well, aren't you looking for members? No, not really. Why would I look for members of a church? I don't understand it. What do I need members for? All of my members are intact. I got my arms, my legs. I got a wife. I got two daughters. I got German Shepherd dogs that I'm raising. I own 2.5 cars. Okay, got a little money in the bank. I don't need no members. My wife works. I work. What do I need members for? Well, why are you doing church? I'm not doing church. God called me to tell people what he's saying in this book. That's all I'm doing. Now, it so happens that we meet in a building, and the building was built years ago. As a matter of fact, the building is no longer there. It's no longer there. The Olivet Baptist Church in Los Angeles is gone. The building doesn't even exist there anymore. If you go to the phone book, you'll find a place on San Pedro Street on the corner, about 100 and something, 118th and 19th Street. But that's after the people took the money that was in the bank and bought a house and converted it into a church. But the building that J.B. Stanley built, facing 976 East Jefferson, is no longer there. When you see me preaching on YouTube in that beautiful room with all those people in front of me, that building does not exist. It doesn't have to exist. So, no, you can't join my church. I don't have one. I didn't want one. Now, if you want to know what I taught, go to my YouTube clips. Some of the things that I said took a lot to believe. And over the years, I'm going to leave them up because I want you to see my transitional mind. My mind goes in a different direction these days. But the Bible has addressed all of these things. Listen to what Boyce says. And I'm quoting from his section, Romans chapter 4, verses 13 through 17. During my years of formal education, when I had scores of books to read for classes, I developed a way of looking at the assigned text, and it helped me get through them. I regarded the 15th and the 20th books of one course and the study of the books in another course as enemy soldiers that had to be shot down before um, before I could win the war. Each time I finished a book, I would say, "There's another dead soldier," and he's right. Because when you're doing graduate work studies in theology, you don't just read lines of an esotericist and then come up with a phony butt idea that you're a god out of your mind. And I was kind to the gentleman as I was speaking with him because I wanted to bust out and start laughing and said, "Negro, who you think you talking to?" But anyhow, Boyce goes on and he says, "I mention this now because there is a sense in which the Apostle Paul too had been shooting down enemy soldiers. In Romans 4, he was at war uh, for the gospel, of course, and the champion that have been sent to handle that against uh, an enemy that was formidable. Thus far, there has been two of them. The first was works, and this was a soldier almost everyone believed in. Boyce is taking this approach because he knows that a lot of people think that they're justified by God by the works that they do for the church. No, you're not justified to believe in God by the works that you do, but by the faith that you have. I have faith to believe that God is going to leave me here until it's time for me to die. Therefore, if they ever find me dead, it's not because I took my life, it's because somebody else took it. Or I just laid down and died. But I'm going to be here until God is finished with me. This is a very important forum that I'm on because most people today don't listen. Well, you can't find an old retired pastor that's doing what I'm doing. And these clips that I'm doing will only become more valuable after my death. And so I'm playing up to you to give you an idea of what you need to be thinking about, because as it goes, things are going to grow worse and worse as we live through our days. That shooting in Tennessee is nothing compared to what's going to come on the horizon. Because this country, it seems like, with all uniformity, is trying to put God down. Oh, you don't believe in that idea about God. Oh, how do you know who Jesus is? Oh, hey, man, I can't prove that, but I know this. One day in 1967, I was with my friends drinking Olympia beer and smoking some cheap ganja. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, a voice from heaven began to speak to my mind and asked me a simple question: what are you doing? Of course, I couldn't answer the question. I didn't understand it fully. But I knew that it was a power far stronger than I, because I'd never experienced anything like that before. Now, a lot of people say, well, it was because it was some bad marijuana that you were smoking. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Because at that time, that marijuana wasn't laced. Somebody was growing it in the backyard. I was a young man. And I remember that voice saying to my mind, what are you doing? And it frightened me. And I said, who are you? What is this? And there was someone with me in the car. They heard me. That's why when I hear John MacArthur, he doesn't know when Christ ever spoke to him. You crazy, man. Because every person that Christ speaks to, when Christ calls them to be his voice in the wilderness, responds the way that I did. Every person. Any so-called man of God that tells you that he can't remember when God ever said anything to him, know this, that that man is not a man of God. Huh. Thank you. And Tony, I'm going to tell you something. I have one guy say, you can read it on the scroll. He says he thanks God for the teaching that I've taught and that it has helped him a lot. You know what? I know it helped you because it helped me. Why would I give you anything that wouldn't help you? See, and this is what this man was telling me. This man was saying, all you did was scared people to get money out of them, told them they were going to hell. I said, man, you don't know me. You don't know any. And then I asked him, how old are you? And he wouldn't tell me how old he was. I hold him suspect. He's an illogical voice. And he's talking to a man that's not even 30. And this man is talking like that too. And I tell these young men, somebody will line you up against a wall and put a bullet in your head because you sound like a fool. There's only one God, and you are not he. And I find it extraordinary if this is what I say to people that claim to be gods. If you are gods, because there's a guy that's dead, he used to teach that. He was one of the leaders in the Word Faith movement, Frederick K.C. Price. He was a leader of the Crenshaw Christian Center. I heard he died of horrific COVID, just ate through his body. And I recall when I was on the radio, I used to ask that man, you need to come and sit on my radio show with me because you are lying to these people and you're not going to get away with that. He didn't. Now, the only positive test that I had of COVID is when I took a home test and I tested positive and I stayed in my house for 14 days away from everybody, tested myself 2 or 3 times after that. Never had a semblance of it again. I don't know, but it just felt like I had a cough. I didn't know I had no COVID. But they say that this COVID attacked everything of that man, ate him up, ate him up. Now you can take that for whatever it is. I have been on this operating table. I was on the operating table not even 2 weeks ago, and then 2 months ago, and then 2018 I had open heart surgery, and I'm still here. And I did not ask God one time to not let me die, not once. I said, if you want to take me while I'm in that cold room, do so. Thank you for a wonderful life. I just want to close my eyes and sleep on forever. He left me here. Why do you think he left me here? He left me here to talk to you, Tony Frazier. That's right. Because he knew that, see, hey, he knows what you need, and what I'm going to give you is going to preserve your heart and your spirit. I hope a lot more people look at this after I shut the thing down. Because a friend of mine told me, Sean, you writing your memoirs because whatever you put up on that YouTube, on the internet, it's out there forever. People all over the world can view this. Let me talk to my fellow human beings, my Homo sapiens from all over the world. There is a God that created all of this massive universe, everything, every solar system, everything. I told this man yesterday, this didn't happen by no chance. You're not God. You can't even control your next bowel movement. Everything that happens is because God allows it to happen. And anyone that would, you know what? I like what the Bible says. God said, I am God and there is none else. Did you hear that? God said, I'm God and you shall have no other God before you. Now these people going around telling people that they're gods, and God said, you're going to tell that to the wrong person one day, and you're going to wish you had never said that. I'm going to tell you, like the Baptist preachers of old, there's only one person that Pastor John is afraid of in this world. It ain't you. It ain't you. It ain't you. You. There's only one that I fear and that I will always put my trust in. I will always rely upon him. And I use him as an acronym because I don't think God is a man. He's so far away from being like us. The creator of the expanse of the entire solar system from end to end. In every planet that ever existed, that exploded, that burned out, that turned into a black hole, from every molecule in space, over space, under space, whatever, of all the species of Homo sapiens, of animals, of insects, of fish, of bugs, of birds, of mammals, the creator of every rock, every plant, every piece of dirt, every star, every moon, in every solar system throughout the entire universe. That is the God that I worship and that I fear. And why should I fear him if I extol him, if I honor him? I tell you, if you don't extol him and if you don't honor him, and if you play your raunchy, depraved, stinking flesh up as an example of what the divine does, that is blasphemy against God. And for that, my Bible tells me there is no forgiveness. Thank you for coming to Pastor John's page. And thank you, Tony, for hanging in there with me. And for those of you that watch this after the fact, please don't try to put God down in your mind. Don't listen to a nitwit that would put that in you or on you, because that's the kind of spirit that comes on people that makes them go into a church school and kill innocent babies and older people that's trying to help the babies, and a custodian that's trying to keep the place safe and sanitated for the babies. Don't fall for that. That person is your enemy. That tells you there is no God. That person is against your life. That person needs a psychiatrist. That person is out of their minds. They may talk smooth and sound like a smooth talking soothsayer, but if you're anything like me, you know there's a God, and you will forever give homage to that individual being. God bless you, and thank you for coming to my page. And you pray for me that I may be strengthened to come back soon and do another live just for you. God bless.